I'm working on a project, and I would love it if you would talk to me about it a little bit.
What is it?
So my friends and I are going to do an episode of our podcast. So we're talking about what it was like being a black man in the military. And I thought you were the first one I ever met.
When I was in the military, the black boys in the military today got it much better than what it was.
Yeah.
That many years ago, which we was. The closer you get back to old time slavery, then the worse the condition it would have been for black people.
Yeah.
Like myself.
What made you join?
I went to an area when there were some people that would stand and tell you that they didn't believe in black people having certain positions and so forth.
Yeah.
And that changed. Adam Clayton Powell was the first black male to have a high position. And he made a lot of changes that one man could make, getting in the right position.
Yeah.
So,
what made you join the military?
Looking for survival. Things was beginning to change. I named a man Adam Clayton Powell, and people like that made changes.
Mm-hmm.
But the military was one of the first escape routes for black males in particular, because women were just kept out of everything then, white or black.
Yeah. So
I went in the military looking for survival, and I did. I took a lot of courses while I was in the military, and so it had its. It paid off for me to go in the military.
Yeah, well, your service is appreciated.
And I got a grandson that went in the military, and that helped him get through college and everything. Oh, that's you, isn't it? I forgot who that is.
Yes.
I want to welcome you guys to a very, very special episode of our Modern Manhood podcast. My name is Dr. Damon, and of course, with my co-founder, Donnell Cole, we are the founders of Modern Manhood Foundation, a nonprofit with a mission to empower men with skills and tools to grow and build better communities. And in this episode, we wanted to have a roundtable discussion and really talk about the realities of, being a black man in the military. So we welcome some of our favorite brothers and community, kings out to really have a conversation and share what that looks like, especially on this occasion as we celebrate, the Veterans Holiday. So first, let me say thank you to everyone, who has served our country, wherever your family, your lineage, and your experience is from. We honor you, and we want to say, we lock arms with you. And in this space where Donnell and everyone we invite into, our culture, we want to have the real conversations, and sometimes that means talking about things that some of us have experienced and share in good, bad, and ugly. But that also means lifting up one another so that we can really see each other and appreciate each other better. So, welcome, Donnell. Talk to us, my guy.
Hey, man. So I'm looking forward to this conversation as we reflect on, what the military means in the community. This is very diverse. I don't think we're always given the opportunity to express, what it looks like to serve our country in terms of the perspective that's shaped in the world in regards to the value, the role, and also the good and the bad and the ugly. I know yesterday, me and my daughter, we were talking about something that we saw yesterday, and it was homelessness as we're out in the neighborhood here in mid Oklahoma. And I was like, man, there's a lot of homeless people. And one of the things she said, what's even sadder is how many veterans we see that are homeless in terms of what they've done for our country. And I said, Dave, that's why it's so important to be mindful of what you devote yourself to. We have a lot of people that's in the family. One of my brothers, two of my brother-in-laws who struggle with PTSD, just because of some of the circumstances that they had to deal with to come back home and be responsible for raising a family. And sometimes you don't always have an awareness of how many mental difficulties you have to overcome. So I appreciate this conversation. I really do. So let's go, brothers.
So
Let's go.
listen, the voice that you just heard, guys, before we really get started, this is my grandfather, and he is a pillar in our family, and in Oklahoma, this is home for him. It always has been. Um, and in our conversations, I asked him about what his experience was, and we've talked, of course, over the years, and having that conversation with him really kind of sparked this. So I'm going to introduce him. That's John Oliver, Big John, as he's known. Big Streets, talking about his experience and why he joined the military. He just celebrated his his 89th birthday, and so when we talked about that, he joined the military, back in the 40s. Gosh, I mean, in the 50s, and so it was interesting hearing, a little bit about his experience and unfortunately some of the parallels, that brings us to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give every brother here a chance to really introduce himself, and you'll see very quickly why we brought him to the table and why we know this is going to be a dope conversation. So I'll start with my grandfather, John Oliver. He joined the Navy, and he served 2 terms,
Hoorah.
including the Korean War, and so and we'll go around and we'll introduce ourselves. My name is Dr. Damon. I actually joined the United States Marine Corps back in 2001, and I ended up serving for 8 years with the 4th Battalion, with actually the Marine Corps Reserves as I went through college, and it was definitely a life-changing experience. So, brothers, introduce yourselves. Let's go around and let them know where you come from and what you do.
All right, I'm Donald Pimmon. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, but I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I joined the Air Force in 2004. I was a member of the 507 Services unit out at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. I served for 8 years.
Awesome. All right, my name is Donnell Cole, co-founder of Modern Manhood. I served in the United States Navy, did in 2001, actually. That's kind of crazy. I graduated high school, and we actually graduated from boot camp 9/11. September 9/11 when we graduated. We went in July, did 1 term and got out.
All right, how y'all doing? My name is J.D. Cotto. I'm a retired U.S. Army First Sergeant. Served both active duty during Desert Storm, and then also served in the reserves. And I did 2 years in Iraq from 2006 to 2008. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. So tonight when we start talking, I'm going to give you a perspective from both sides because I'm both Black and I'm Hispanic. Awesome. And I when I say racism from both sides, I got it from the white side and I got it from the Black side.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, until people actually get to know you, what they're actually willing to accept from you and stuff. So as we go forward, you'll hear some of my stories and stuff, man, because I got quite a bit.
You can hear your accent.
Right.
Yeah.
From Brooklyn.
Heard that Brooklyn.
Straight out of Brooklyn, man. Straight out of Brooklyn.
All right. Good evening. My name is Courtney McWoods McLean. Originally from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Trained actor, performance poet, author, and community outreach DI&I expert. Army National Guard, 1120th Engineer Battalion. Got in 2012 and served for 8 years. And man, it's an honor to be on this conversation.
Awesome.
So my name is Dejan Moore, from Oakland, California. I am in the Air Force. I'm a staff sergeant in the Air Force. Why I joined? Actually, you listening to the reasons why I joined. I joined because I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have, I wanted kids. And I thought about it. I can join the military. They'll provide me with all my needs. They'll take care of all my necessities. So from there, I could just work for all my wants. All that money whatever else I make, I could spend that on all my wants, and that's perfectly fine with me. Guaranteed check, guaranteed job. All I got to do is get told what to do until I get to the point to where I can actually start making those decisions. So it made no sense not to for my position. So yeah, that's why I joined.
You didn't go straight out of high school though, did you?
No, so I was at Langston University. I was a drafting engineering design major and a technology major, so I was a double major. I was working my way through school, so I came out of school with zero debt. Hold on, man. So with that being the case, school got expensive, like real expensive. So I went ahead and just joined the military. I figured it would have been a better option at the time. So I did it. I don't regret it at all. I ain't ready to be out though. I will say that.
Yo, tell us. I want to know why you guys joined. Because I mean, in the age right now, even in the past 30 years, it's not been looked at as kind of like a mandatory thing, right?
Right.
What is it? What was it that really made you join? Because I'll tell you, my reason for joining is I was bored. I needed a challenge, and I know that sounds kind of like, well, you can do anything but that. But I mean, like, when I really look back on it, I had all these instances where my body failed me, and in growing up, kind of feeling like I was only seen for my intellect, or I was only appreciated because I was smart enough, or all these other things, and I was like, I feel like physically I'm capable of doing anything. And what's the craziest shit you can come up with? Oh, join the military. Listen, yeah, I was 17 and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do all the rest of the shit. I'm gonna take over the world, but today I'm gonna go and take over the Marine Corps. And that's why I enlisted.
Man.
I'll tell y'all while I joined. So, I was born to a single mother. My father wasn't around. I'm the oldest of three. Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, I mean, the streets practically raised me, is the way I look at it and stuff. And as I got closer to that time to graduating from high school, I was like, man, what am I going to do with my life? I didn't know anything about college. Nobody in my family had been to college, so I didn't know how to apply. I didn't know what monies I can get from it. All I knew was I'm getting ready to be, graduating from college. What am I going to do to help my family out? So, and then not only that, growing up in New York, I did drugs. I sold drugs. I smoked drugs. Went to school high half the time. Gang banging and stuff like an idiot and stuff just to survive. Because that's what New York is about, right? You got to survive, right? So I did a lot of that stuff, and then when it came to that time, I'm like, yo, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So how do I get out of this situation, right? Because to get out of a gang, of course, you got to get jumped out of a gang. That ain't always good, right? So
Straight up.
How do I leave this place, man, without getting my ass whooped, first of all?
Yeah.
Because I already did that coming in. I don't want to get it coming out because it's even worse. So I just joined the military. I was like, I came home one day. And by the way, I was 17 when the recruiter talked to me. I was 17 because I graduated early. I was a smart kid. I just made a lot of dumb decisions. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, hey, mom, brought this recruiter home. He was like, my mom's like, what's he doing here? I said, yo, I need you to sign these papers. She's like, for what? I said, I'm joining the military. She's like, no, you ain't. I said, yeah, I am. I said, because this is what's going to happen if you don't sign these papers. I'm going to end up in jail. I'm going to end up on some drugs. Or I'm going to end up dead. I said, so this is my way out, mom. I need you to help me here. And now she cried. She signed those papers, man, but she cried the whole time. But I can guarantee you, she'll tell you today that was the best decision that we made together ever. So that's the reason why I joined.
Man.
So the reason I joined, I initially was going to go out of high school, but September 11th happened. And so my parents at first were like, nah, we don't want you to go away to school. But I've never been a studious person. I didn't like school. I needed a quick out because I was trying to get out of Chicago. And I was like, man, so I made a deal with my dad. My dad was like, go down to Langston, go do a year. And if you don't like it, do whatever it is you choose to do. So I got to school and I was like, okay, I like it down here. So away from Chicago, I don't have to deal with the problems I was going through with either I'm going to go hang on the block or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So I went to school, but I was in school and here I am broke from Chicago, just trying to live off financial aid. And I was like, what am I going to do? I want to stay here, but I don't want to go home. So I called an Air Force recruiter one night when I was in the dorm and I was like, hey, man, how can I sign up? I'll go when I finish school. So I finished my freshman year, went off to boot camp. And like I said, I joined because it was more of trying to finance that education because I knew I came from a family where we were basically a middle-class family. Both my parents work. My dad's black, my mother's white. So I was like, man, they don't have the money to keep sending me to school. So it's either like, and their choice was, well, if we can't keep you at Langston, you're gonna come back to Chicago, and that was never an option.
Yeah.
So I went in, and that was the best choice I could because it financed my education. So
That's dope.
What's up, man?
Man, it was my lottery ticket out too, man. I'm not even gonna front. And it was so crazy and dysfunctional during the period when I went because it was two different murders that took place. When I was 16, I was working at Taco Bell. My mentor used to drive me back and forth. And during one night, we was on the way to the hospital to see his daughter being born. We got robbed by somebody that set us up that was close to us, and he got killed that night. Which happened to be somebody that was really close and really impressionable. And about, I want to say the following year, my mom, I had just met my uncle. He's from Texas. He was a blood, and he went to the store around the corner to go get us some stuff. And while he was at the store, he got killed that night. And so my mom and grandma woke up with like night terrors, and we had, police officers and news reporters coming over to my grandma's house. And I had a conversation with a recruiter earlier that year, and I was like, man, I just can't do this. I really need to get out of this environment. And so pretty similar to you all, me and my cousin was real tight, and one of my other homeboys from school, we was like, yo, they got a buddy list. Let's all go together. So we kind of kicked it real hard one weekend before it. And it was almost like, we got our way out before we knew what we was going to be stepping into. It was even worse. But yeah. What up, Mac? Let's go.
So I went in late. I went in at age 27, and by that time, without the whole backdrop of growing up around gang violence, growing up on the south side, east side of Oklahoma City. Half my family was Piru, half my family was rolling 60s. Most of my uncles, they grew up in the drug game. So from knowing how to cook up crack as a kid to seeing my aunts turn into dope fiends, single parent household, a lot of what all of us see as kids. But I was able to go to college. I was able to be, semi-successful. I feel got my master's degree, but I hear that like every 7 years you have like a midlife. You have a mini midlife crisis every 7 years. So when I hit about 27, I was seeing my peers that graduated from college looking like they're successful, looking like they've been in decent jobs for the past 5 to 6 years, and they've been evolving in their career. At that point, I feel like I hadn't been. And I had a master's degree making $29,000 a year.
Man.
And I was just feeling lost. And then I went and started fracking, in the oil field. And I got laid off. Actually, when I was on my day off, I got laid off.
How you get laid off on your day off?
Craig. I'm in the Bahamas with my then girlfriend, now wife. We in the Bahamas. I was a team lead. And so I was over like 30 guys. Me and the 30 guys end up getting laid off. I come into Miami. I turn my phone on because you turn it off so you won't get them charges. I turn my phone on, and then I'm getting blew up. Text messages, emails, talking about how we're laid off. I said, man, this can't be real. We're not really laid off. But they really did lay us off. Their plan was that the per diem and everything was too expensive, and they wanted to get rid of everyone that wasn't living in Odessa, Texas. So I was like, well, you know what? I was making great money. I was making like 10, 11,000 a month. And, but I was never home. But once I got laid off, I didn't want to go back to the oil field, but I was like, man, I got to figure out something. And I literally was depressed, man. I was depressed. I wasn't making any good money. I didn't feel like I had a career path, had all this damn education, but Sally Mae was on my ass to pay these student loans back. So I was like, what can I do? Join the military, trying to get student loan repayment. And my first plan was to go Air Force. I really checked into all of them except the Marines. I said the Marines is too crazy. I ain't going to the Marines.
Yeah, man.
I said I ain't messing with the Marines. But especially it took me, thinking of hindsight, it took me so long to get into the military because what did Furious Style say? The black man don't have no place in the white man's army. That was always in the forefront of my mind. Even when I saw other kids in Del City and Midwest City go to the military straight out of high school, and it seemed like they were doing well for themselves. I said, I don't need that. I'm getting my OU degree. I'm getting my master's. I won't ever need that. So at 27, getting into the military was a shock for me. But I guess, I needed something different, and I needed to pay these student loans back as well. But it was a shock to my whole system, and it was not planned. It was definitely not planned.
It's interesting because, we look back, and I talk about my grandfather. He was 17 when he enlisted. That was 1950. If I did the math right. And yet, for some of the same simple reasons that he joined, we're looking at ourselves, in the past 20 years. It's crazy how, gosh, things don't often change as much as we like to think they do, right?
Yeah.
But
so I was a loan officer at Tinker Federal Credit Union, and I remember I was sitting across an older Black man. He had retired from the Air Force. He retired from Tinker, I believe, and then I think he retired maybe from the oil field. He was getting like 3 retirement checks. And I said, I want to be like this dude.
That'd be nice.
So around 26, I had started contemplating, but man, I was trying so hard not to get messed over. I would go into the recruiter's office, then I would take like a few weeks to try to figure things out. Then I go back to the recruiter. I did that for a whole year. So when I signed up at 27, I thought, I was like, I'm doing something educated. I'm taking my time, making sure everything is right. I'm not gonna be fucked off. I'm gonna do it right. And but I seen an older Black man with like 3 retirements, and I said, oh yeah, I want to be like
that. Yeah, good, man. So with all of that, and because we take everything that we've been through with us, and we plan it. And we say, this is what it's going to look like. This is exactly how it's going to go. Where did it shift gears? When did it change? Where did you see your military career change where you were like, what the hell am I doing?
Man, so when I got in, it's kind of crazy. I wrote about this in my book, From Living a Legacy, that I thought I was going to be escaping. And I was excited when I got the sea bag, but I didn't realize how much of my baggage was in that sea bag that I carried with me to the military. And the first day I got on the ship, there was this guy. He's like, you from Oklahoma? I'm like, yeah, I'm from Oklahoma. And I was picking up my tray. He took a bite off of something in my tray and spit in my tray. That was one of my first introductions when I got to the command on the ship. And we got into a fight. So Dana, my first time being there, I was labeled the trouble guy. On top of that, the ranking that I was promised on the paperwork didn't get filed. So I didn't even go in making the money I was supposed to make. So not only was my first impression on a ship terrible, but the guy that did it to me outranked me. And although he disrespected me and was at fault for the altercation because he outranked me, there was no penalties on his behalf. So, and that's just the beginning of it. On top of like the gang violence that was there, on top of the racism, and, I had to go to captain's mast and seeing, some of the racial slurs that the captain of the ship called me. Among the things with Captain Mast and the other officers that was on the ship, the only thing that really saved me in the long run is that we had a new officer who happened to be Black, and I was able to tell him a lot of things that was going on. And he was able to investigate it for himself to see what was going on. But it was a lot of trauma, a lot of just tragedy that was going on. I did get to see a lot of ports, which is amazing on the traveling side. But the trouble that you have to go through in regards to the relationships, because it's all about who you know in the military, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
So real quick, I want to say something, but I'd love to hear the rest of y'all brothers speak on that because you see the shift of the dynamic of institutionalized racism. Because I didn't experience probably what Jay, Donald, Damon, Donnell, I probably didn't experience the racism that y'all did. Y'all probably experienced a lot of upfront, in your face racism, which is very much a mirror of America. I experienced more paperwork racism, more institutionalized racism that wasn't in my face. Plus, honestly, I was 6'2" at that time, stronger than everybody else, 245.
It makes a difference.
Repping out 315. Like the white boys wasn't fucking with me, right? But that racism was different. It wasn't in my face. And so, but I feel like that's a mirror of America, because you might not have someone in Oklahoma City or whoever spit in your face, but it might be in the constructs of how you get promotions, the constructs of still redlining in your community. It's even though redlining is been going on for decades, but it's institutionalized more than just being in your face. But I didn't have that problem, Donnell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
More paperwork, you know.
I realized that whenever we was doing a processing out, there was a guy that was doing a processing out that said, man, this is what they want to do to you. And I was so grateful he was from Oklahoma. He was a white guy from Oklahoma saying, you're a smart kid. You just got dealt a bad hand. And so when you get back home, these are some of the things I would like you to do. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes I was oblivious because I was grounded with so much anger. Man, my mama had a stroke when I was in the command, and we went from Chicago to California to Japan. So I was stationed in Cusco, Japan, and they requested for me to come home because of her medical condition. My aunt also had died while I was in the military. And the captain was just like, yo, I'm your father now. Boy, I'm your mama, I'm your daddy, all that. You ain't going home. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't until a fight that had broke out, and I was trying to defend somebody from a fight that broke out because we had so much trouble, that was a way that I was able to get out because of some of those words that this guy said. And in hindsight, it ended up being a God thing, because when I got home, bro, I went to go see my mom. She had a stroke and lost her memory the day that I got home. And if I had not been there, she probably would have died. So I felt like it was supposed to happen in one or more ways because the way the story plays out. But hindsight, I was pissed off because I was like, I didn't get in trouble, but one time I was trying to defend myself. I was my uniforms. I followed everything to a T because I was just trying to get on good graces, man. But it is what it is.
It's interesting, because like military culture, especially like American culture, is a foundation of creating like this heroism, right? Like you've got this image of being in the military, you're a hero by just the most foundational American standard, and then on top of that, in our community, you carry that mantle, like literally it's on your chest. I'm a hero because I stand for everything good. And when you find yourself trying to literally do that, if it goes against the construct of like just get the job done and we don't have time for that, then all of a sudden you're paying the price for it. And now you got that duality of like, am I supposed to be a good guy right now, or am I just supposed to be It's tough, man.
I think like for me, the reality of being in the military kind of changed like after our first like initial uniform issue, and the way I wore my uniform, and I kind of was sagging because I still wasn't trying to conform to the ways of the military. And so I remember having this white this training instructor in the Air Force telling me, he's like, hey, where you from? I was like, Chicago. He's like, oh, so you a gangster disciple. That's what you are. You trying to do this? So he was like, by the end of this boot camp, I'm going to make you big. And he had me do so many push-ups. And I was doing push-ups every time he looked at me. So, but as far as the racism, I saw that blatantly as I got into boot camp, starting to meet people, because we're from all different backgrounds, different places. And I remember I had a bunkmate right next to me as this white dude. He was from Connecticut or somewhere on the Eastern Seaboard, but he was like, yeah, I really don't. He was trying to figure out my race. And a lot of people do that when they first assume, oh, are you white? What are you? And then they hear me talking, they be like, oh yeah, he's black. But he sat there and was like, I don't really see niggers. And I'm like, whoa, player, that's the wrong place to be talking like that. And then so it was a mixed race of blacks, Hispanics, whites. But when he used that N-word, it was like, and then he kept trying to kind of like, man, you hang out with all the blacks. And I was like, the reason I do, because that's what I'm comfortable with. And coming into a situation where I haven't been around too many white people other than my mother's side of the family, and then you using words like that, it's like, I'm gonna get kicked out the military before it even starts.
Hey, so let me add a little bit something to that as well. So, man, so I came in again 1987. So that was during this time frame where you had that transitioning phase. The military was doing the transition from, the 1960s, 70s type of soldiers into the, hey, look at here, we got to treat soldiers a lot better. They're a lot more educated these days. So we were in that transition. We were right in that middle piece. So the drill sergeant could still whoop your ass. He could still put hands on you. He could cuss you out. And by the way, I was a drill sergeant one time in my life too. All right. I couldn't do that kind of stuff to privates though, right? But just the fact that I was from New York, the minute I got off that bus at Fort Sill, that joker said, "Where you from? New York, get over there. Where you from? California, get over there." Same thing as Donald said, "Oh, you're a gangster. You this, you that." And I'm like, yo, I'm 17 years old. I don't know what the hell going on right now, right? And on that very first day, they already had put in me that you ain't shit up in here and you ain't gonna be there unless we tell you something. I did push-ups until I threw up on day
Man.
one. I'm not even used to this type of stuff, and that already had my mind like, what did I do? Why am
Man.
I could have survived a lot better in the streets, man, compared to this stuff, you know. And then just like Donald said, in basic training. So, growing up in New York, right? I grew up mainly around Puerto Ricans and blacks, right? Because that's my background, right? You use the N-word freely around your folks that right? Your blacks, Puerto
Exactly.
Rican, don't matter, right? That's just like Fat Joe was talking about one time. We use that word just like black people use it, right?
Right.
But here's what I found out. Brothers from the South don't play that crap. Because first of all, like Donald said, we're trying to figure out, what are you? You sound black, but you don't look black.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like, yo, I'm fighting two fronts here, right? Who do I hang out? Do I hang out with the blacks or I hang out with the Hispanics? Because, I mean, I can hang out with the Hispanics, but if they're Mexicans, that ain't my flow. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a different culture, right? When it comes to that part of it. And I'm like, yo, what am I going to do? So I was like, you know what? I start telling people, listen, if you want to know what I am, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm black, all right? If you actually study the history of Puerto Rico, damn it, we black, all right? With a little dash of Hispanic, Spaniards over here, and some Taino Indians over here. But the African that were brought to that island, that stayed in that island, they're the ones that made the biggest impact on that island, right? The music that we hear, the food that we eat, that's all inspired by Africa, period. So once I started talking to brothers about that and started hanging out with them, then they got to really know me. Then it was a totally different thing, right? And Damon, to tell you, I mean, being part of Phi Beta Sigma, anytime I go somewhere, I don't use the N-word, right? Unless I'm around brothers that know me, right? So when we start going out to these different regional conferences and stuff, and I'm around brothers, they all in there talking about N-word this, N-word that, and when everybody like, oh, yo, my own brother had to say, man, if I offend you, I apologize right now. But they be like, yo, this nigga, he a nigga just like us, shit.
Right.
What? And it's then they get comfortable, right? And then it's like everybody can be themselves and stuff. But I'm telling you, and I saw the racism not just from when I was a young soldier, but I also saw it when I was a first sergeant, and as I rose through the ranks, man, that not just systemically with the paperwork, they do that as well. But like Donald said, blatantly right in my face. I mean, when I say I got taken down so many times, I got taken down. And everybody know we all military, so you know what Article 15 is, right?
Yeah.
All right. I had 4 in my career. Four, right? At an early age. So I went from private to spec 4, back down to private. I would gain that rank back, get demoted again. And it was always because it was an issue between me and usually a white soldier, right? And it was always some stuff that they would stop. But see, they would do their stuff under the table, right? Like they would do it under the breath, right? But if you're coming at me a certain way, I'm sorry. Back then I was young. I still had that New York mentality of survival. Like, we ain't gonna let that pass, right? Hell, I went to jail, right? Because I whooped 2 white dudes up one night. Because I was in charge of quarters, right? These fools come in drunk as all outdoors, right? Just got promoted to E4, and I'm like, okay, charge of quarters, this should be pretty simple. Hey, listen, hey, it's past the time. I need you guys to go up in your rooms, do whatever you need to up in there. All of a sudden, man, forget you. You ain't Jack. Who are you? I'm the charge of quarters. That's who I am. I need y'all to go on up to your rooms, man, so that way we don't get in no trouble. I don't want y'all to get in trouble. I sure don't want to get in no trouble. One of them said, hey, man, F you and your mama. That was it. And one thing you don't tell a Puerto Rican is, hey, F you and your mama. Then you start talking about mamas, we got problems.
Absolutely.
So I took a pool stick to both their heads, and I'm the one that went to jail. You know what I'm saying? And stuff. And I got demoted. And then, I mean, from that point forward, man, my career, it was always an up and down, because it was always that backside of, hey, he's a troublemaker. Even if I got to another unit, your records file, they follow you. Oh, yeah, we got a troublemaker here. Even when I was trying to do right. And I'll tell you this, and then I'll let somebody else talk. But the very last time when I got promoted again to Spec 4, I got sent to primary leadership school, right? Came back from primary. I'm like, yeah, I'm a soldier now, right? Boots shine, uniform highly pressed. Back then you had to press them, right? Like
Woof.
basically stand them up, right? Come back, platoon sergeant, a brother. Never forget his name. Sergeant first class early. Call me in his office. Section chief, no, you stay out there. We don't need you. I'm like, oh boy, good. So first thing he said, stand up, parade, rest. I'm like, oh, that means I can't say nothing now. And he just went at me, man. Dakota, you ain't shit. You ain't never gonna be shit. As long as I'm here, you ain't gonna get promoted to E5. Period. I'm like, yo, I'm thinking to myself, I just graduated from PLDC. What's the problem here, right? And then he kept on just going. Every time I try to say something, he tell me to shut up. You ain't nothing, shut up. Finally, I said, well, you know what? Since I ain't nothing, I ain't gonna be nothing. I'm just gonna go climb over this desk and whoop your ass. And that's what I did. I climbed over the desk, I whooped his ass and kindly walked out, got in my car, went to my house. Came back in 2 days. First on, I said, God damn it, what were you thinking? And I told him what happened. He was like, I tell you what, black first on too, by the way. He said, Dakota, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're a good soldier. I'm gonna tell you what I need you to do. Go straight to the chaplains and tell them you're ready to whoop somebody's ass again. And I sure enough, I went over to the chaplain and said, okay, we're gonna send you to anger management. We're gonna give you some time off. You need a break, right? I was like, cool. And I did that, right? And then my first sergeant was like, hey, I'm gonna get you out of this unit because you're about to get your 5th Article 15. And if you get that, you're done.
Yeah, man.
Actually, I should have been done already, right? Because after 3, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
So he got me out of that unit, man, and I was able to go to another unit where, I started fresh. They didn't look at my record, as hard and stuff, and I just regained, right, my reputation that way and stuff.
That's
but
awesome.
man, I'm telling you, the stuff that I went through is just ridiculous, man. Just ridiculous.
It's not a cakewalk. People think it's a cakewalk, bro.
And it's not, man. You have to literally, you have to fight for everything you get. I tell brothers these days, oh man, how much percentage you got? I'm like, yo, I had 0% right now because I don't feel like I have to go fight again, right? Knowing that you send me to Iraq twice, knowing my back is messed up, knowing I was in a combat zone, right? I got to fight to do what? To prove that my back is killing me because of that.
Yeah,
right.
Man.
To fight that I get, migraines. I don't sleep at night. I got PTSD.
Right.
I got to prove that to you.
Right.
That to me it's just another fight that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And nobody, and I actually would have stayed in the military. I would have stayed in the military if I was able to. I wanted to be like a soldier advocate. Like I wanted to be someone who like I forget the word, I forget the position now, but it's someone that kind of mentors brand new soldiers when they come in, and you help them kind of do like a pathway for their career and everything like that. I wanted to do something like that because in my situation, a lot of what I was seeing was young soldiers was coming in and nobody, either they went to MEPS and nobody broke down the contract for them, so they got screwed over, or anything that they talked to a recruiter about was not in their contract. And these are young kids who's not really going to read the contract. They're just going to sign whatever they want, especially if you talk about a bonus. And then they get to their unit or whatever, and they're promised different schools, and the unit is not holding up their bargain with whoever said in the other place. Now they get to their unit, they're not going to the schools or getting the certifications and stuff that they were promised.
Right.
So even when it comes to them going to BLC or whatever, they're not getting those opportunities. So my issue was, let me be the person that can advocate for them, who read the contracts, who make sure they're getting what they're supposed to get, because no one is looking out for them. But at that point, I had some profiles, like I had a no-run profile because I had arthritis in my knees and stuff like that. So I wanted to be a warrant officer because I wanted to be my own damn boss.
Yeah.
And I went in with a master's degree. I got screwed over because they said I couldn't go straight into officer school, which is a lie.
That's a lie. Yeah,
it's a lie. So I get the basic training. My drill sergeants are telling me, "Oh, they lied to you. You should have went straight to officer school." And so like,
wow,
yeah. So like the whole situation, like my whole shit going in and everything, I felt like I was just continuously being screwed over.
Yeah,
and I wanted to help the next soldier. You know what I'm saying? But because of the profiles, they weren't trying to, and with the profiles, anyone can get their shit signed off.
Yeah.
Because I was like, every battalion I was in, I was first in push-ups, first in sit-ups. I had a no-run profile, so all I had to do was the stationary bike. My PT score was through the roof. Even in basic training. So, graduated with honors and shit in basic training, then AIT. So all that shit was easy, you know what I'm saying? But it was the paperwork putting me behind with my promotions and shit like that. And I would see white boys going to BLC before me and all this shit. And I'm like, they can barely even pass a PT test.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But they would push that through though. They push that paperwork.
They're pushing through. And so I didn't want to stick around because they wasn't pushing my paperwork through. It took me way too long to get even corporal. Yeah. And when they tried to give me the corporal, I said, you can keep that shit. I know the corporal. You can keep that corporal shit. I don't want no corporal. And by that time, I was about to get out. So I was like, I should have been an E6 a long time ago. Like, I was like, nah, you can keep that. But I wanted to be an advocate for soldiers, And so I would have stayed in. I honestly would have probably stayed in much longer if I could have been in that type of position. But man, it was the paperwork for me because I came in on it was different. It was like, so my battle buddy, he from San Antonio, me and him still tight. Damon, he's actually the brother that's rapping on the PTSD joint.
Yeah.
Antonio. So he comes in tatted up and shit, which I got tats too, but he got a lot of them. I remember the night where they made us strip down and they looking at us in the barracks, like squaring us up, the first night of basic training at Fort Sill. I went to Fort Sill. And I remember them looking at me like, we heard about you. You got your master's degree. So I was always put in, you're going to be over the platoon. You're going to be over everything. You got a master's degree. You know everything, smart guy. So we're going to give you all the leadership roles. So I had all the leadership roles. I was burnt out, bro. Burnt out. First one to wake up, always the last one to go to sleep. That was my whole basic training AIT experience. And their whole thing was, well, you have all this education. You're about to be an officer. So we just going to give you all the responsibility. There you go, butter bar. Since you're going to be a butter bar anyway, you get all this shit. You know what I'm saying? So,
let's go.
But I honestly never felt like it was more of a dynamic of, oh, you about to be a black officer. I'm about to give you shit. I felt more of that than less of, oh, you just a nigga, so I'm going to treat you as such. I felt less of that when I went in. That's why I say I feel like my racism experience was much different.
Well, the dynamics started changing again. Like I said, I came in right at that transition phase where it was the 60s, 70s soldiers. They're starting to transition out. So now you're starting to get some of the more progressive, I guess, soldiers that were coming in. But you still had those groups that, I mean, I had a guy from North Dakota, man. He's like, yo, I ain't never seen a Puerto Rican before.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I said, you want me to cut myself? You cut yourself and you see we're just the same. I mean, like I said, I never seen no one from South Dakota before. What's the point?
Hey, and Jay, to give you some perspective, when I went to basic training, they had the sensitivity cards.
Yo, don't get me started.
We didn't have those. Bro.
I was a drill sergeant. I was a drill sergeant for about 5 years. Let me tell you something. When those stress cards came out, hell, I was stressed. Right? Because again, you can't. Here's the deal. Here's the deal, right? When it comes to the military, the reason the military is really good. And I talk bad about it sometimes, but I will say this: the military gave me a lot of good tools and resources, right? For me to build my reputation in the real world, the way I like to say, right? It really did. But I'm telling you, there's just some things about it that would just drive you nuts sometimes, right? That stress card was one of those things. You're taking the power. You want me to take someone from the streets and take that mentality, right? That street mentality out, right? And convert them and make them into soldiers, right? Soldiers that are going to follow orders, right? Soldiers that can somewhat think for themselves at times, right? Sorry, Marines, I know you guys don't get to do that. But in the Army, we get an opportunity every once in a while to think for ourselves. I'm just playing with you, bro. But But that, I mean, that
Yeah.
stress card right there, I mean, what it did was it took the power away from the drill sergeant to be able to do what they needed to do to keep those soldiers in line. And
Yep.
here's what ended up happening with those stress cards, right? A soldier now, and I get it, because those 60 and 70 soldiers, a lot of them were not educated, right? A lot of them, I don't have my high school diploma. Hell, I'm going in. That's my way out, right? I get
Right.
that. And then when you guys actually started coming in, that's when the degrees started coming in, right? You had soldiers that came in. Hey, man, I got a bachelor's. Hey, I got a master's. So they had a lot more, they intelligence, right? They could think a lot differently, right? They had that critical thinking that the military wants, right? We didn't have to beat that in them.
Yeah.
Okay. But you took the power away from the drill sergeant. And now what ends up happening is now you have soldiers who are undisciplined, right? Because I had one that called it congressman on me. Like, I got called to the carpet because this soldier didn't like the fact that I made him do 17 darn push-ups, right, in the middle of the day.
Wow.
Right, after he screwed up.
Yep.
Right. And here I am in front of a darn lieutenant colonel to my drill sergeant, what happened? What do you mean what happened? He didn't do what he's supposed to do. I said 17 pushes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
17. But again, I had that old school mentality too, right? Because I came from a different era. But I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Luckily, that didn't last very long, because I'm telling you, just to see, I left. I retired in 2009, right? And one of the reasons I retired was because I just got back from Iraq. A lot of the soldiers that when I left, right, were on profiles. And I don't just mean, hey, they really hurt their leg top. I'm talking about, I'm fat as hell and I really don't want to do no PT. So guess what? I want to be on profile. Yet you getting promoted before I am. I've been to combat. I'm coming back. And you are 200-300 pounds, right? Overweight. You can't pass the PT test. You can't do height and weight, right? How you getting promoted before I am, right? I had a problem with that. That's really what caused me to retire, by the way, too, because I was like, this is no longer my army, right? It is definitely, I can't go to war with none of these guys. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Because I got to trust in you to protect me. You can't run 2 feet. We got a problem.
Yep.
I'm 53 years old right now, and I can still run my butt off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, this has to stop. So,
It's a big part of the thing
When-
that I'm hearing just from everybody's like conversation about what it looked like, even from jump, like from the first time you showed up to basic training. I mean, I went to basic training out of San Diego, and we're there in our platoon. The idea of who looks like the image of what the Marine leader looks like, right? He's the brawly guy with the fair skin who stands up with the chin and the jawline. Literally, it's who they would decide from jump was supposed to be the representative and the leader in our group. And this guy's out here shitting in his pants.
Yeah, man.
It was
No,
the
for real.
craziest thing. And it was the craziest thing. And so seeing that, like, from jump, for me, was like, oh, yeah, all right, I'm a chill. I don't have to fight. I don't have to fight for it because we've been fighting. This was one of those areas and those spaces where as far as I've seen and understood about the military and a fresh start and the opportunity to show up and be your best self, that's the fight. I still got to take that fight. I'm good. Just
Yeah, man.
no. And it's sad because so many of us could have amazing careers on, you know what I mean, on top of an awesome experience and opportunity if we could just feel like we belong there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then here's the deal too, brothers. When you get, one of the things I started doing once I got to those positions where I could make a difference, I'd make sure that my soldiers were always taken care of.
Yeah.
As a first song, one of the things I learned and I took it to heart was take care of your soldiers.
Yep.
If you take care of your soldiers will take care of you. That's the number one thing that and I do that now even at my civilian job. I take care of my people. Therefore, my people are like, Jay, what do you need us to do? We don't care. Whatever you need us to do, we'll do it, right? And that's one of the things that's one of the things that came out of.
Tell me something. What made you go enlisted instead of going officer, especially if you had a college degree? Because that's been part of our conversation with some differences between you guys.
So I chose enlisted originally because I'm not an office guy. I don't want to sit in the office and like I'm not the boss guy. I'm a leader guy. I'd rather actually be out in the field doing stuff too, like actually getting my hands dirty, actually handling stuff as well. I realize with a lot of officers, they're admin people. I'm not an admin guy. They're in the office telling people to do this, telling people to do that, and then even with some of the officers, when you're a first lieutenant, second lieutenant, a lot of the higher ups that you're around, they don't really look at you like that. They look at you like, okay, you're young, you don't really know too much, and sometimes they treat you as such. From at least from my experience, from what I've seen. Yeah, I just rather have gone the route I've gone and actually worked a little differently. I'm not gonna say officers don't work differently for to build up. Hold on, baby.
Don't let us get you in any more trouble.
You already heard him say he don't like me talking.
Yeah, we see who got rank over there. You should have been the officer, bro. You should have been the officer.
I will say this though, man.
Nobody.
Them officers, black officers have it hard though, man. I'm gonna tell you right now. A black officer has to deal with one from the enlisted side of the house. I can tell you, they have to deal with people of his own race calling them a sellout or saying, "Hey, you ain't really for us. You just trying to protect your career. You trying to do this." But at the same time, they got to please the person that's going to be, basically doing their NCO or in their case, their officer evaluation report, right? Which is important for them to get promoted. So there's a balancing act for them big time. As an enlisted soldier, it's a lot easier, to deal with that kind of stuff. But for a black officer or just a minority period, they go through some hell because they have to balance that. And they see what happens to us as enlisted, minority men. They look at it and be like, man, I wish I could do something, but if I put my head out there or my neck out there, I'm done. That could be an ender for them, right? And that's a sad thing. One of the reasons I never became an officer, and I tried though. I wanted to be just like Courtney. I want to be a warrant officer, and I had that opportunity, but then I thought about it, say, yeah, I don't really have the schooling because I'll be honest with you, my whole military career, I never held a college degree at all, ever. Okay, now I've gone from 2018 till this past July. I went from 0 degrees to an associate, a bachelor's, and a master's.
Come on,
yeah.
But
when I was in the military, I just that mentality was not there, right? Because they say, "Oh yeah, you can go to school, active duty. Yes, you can go to school." But then again, they don't give you that time to go to school, right?
Right.
You don't got that time to go to school. Why? Because you got to go to training, right? And when you go out to training for a week or two, you can't come back to go to school. You kidding me?
Yeah,
this comes first, right? The training comes first, and that's a lot of the stuff that you enlisteds really deal with. And you're like, well, how you expect me to really educate myself if you're not giving me that opportunity?
Yeah,
but guess what? A lot of the white soldiers had an opportunity to go though.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just from my perspective. I've seen that. How he gets to go and I don't get to go. Oh well, he his section chief took care of him. So why you ain't taking care of me then?
Yeah. When I had the mentality of so when I came back, they had all these stipulations. They said, as soon as you come back, you can't get your SLRP, your student loan payment, if you don't go enlistment first, which was a lie. So it was like, yeah, but if you go to basic and you go to AIT and you get honorable, graduate with honors, as soon as you come back, we'll get you in the OCS.
Yeah.
When I came back, they put me in an OCS holding training. So I had to go on the east side of Oklahoma City. I had to go to OMD every month like it was, and they would treat me like shit, like I was in an OCS prep thing, right? So I was in an OCS prep program for a little under a year. And I would get in arguments with the captain that ran OCS because he would be like, well, because they'll give different opportunities for you to be like a platoon leader and everything like that. And they wouldn't want me to touch anything. And I'm like, I'm not that. I'm a 27-year-old with a master's. I've been helping people while I know how to delegate. And at this time, I worked I was as a contract negotiator for Boeing with a very high security clearance. So I know how to critically think. I know how to delegate. I know how to be a leader, but I'm also a black man who know how to work with his hands. So I'm gonna want to put my hands on the shit.
Right.
And especially being a leader in the oil field, you bet, especially them blacks and Hispanics was like, you get your ass out here and you help us too. So I've always been one to want to get my hands dirty. So when I got in the OCS prep program, they didn't want me to touch anything. They said, no, the leaders, we plan and we have the soldiers, the enlistment people, doing the work. And I didn't like that shit. So I would get into it with the captain all the time about me wanting to actually get my hands dirty because they didn't want the officers to do that. They want you to have your coffee, drink your coffee, and give orders. and for me, I was like, well, I'm not even gonna get the respect of a black officer coming in if I don't get my hands dirty. Like coming in straight, with maybe 2 years under my belt and then get my butter bar. I feel like I wasn't going to get the respect. So I had to definitely keep in the forefront of my mind. I'm going to continue to be a leader. I can plan and delegate and get my hands dirty. I can do all of that. Yeah. But that wasn't going over well with the OCS training.
One thing.
Go ahead, Don.
One thing I could say is like when I got to tinker fresh from tech school in the Air Force, when I got to Tinker Air Force Base, we had a white commanding officer. And I would like talk to the tech sergeants and the staff sergeants that were black. And we walked on eggshells with this white commanding officer and we really couldn't say things. And it seemed like every time I'd ask like the black tech sergeant, hey, so this is what, and he'd be like, nah, just say yes to everything. But that guy retired like a year later and we got a black captain. And she basically tried to start advocating, but the whites counterparts basically thought that we were trying to like rebel and try to do other things differently because she was basically trying to send us to airman leadership school and to get us promoted because she wanted to see us succeed. But it was more of like the white sergeants. They were more like, hey, if the system isn't broke, let's not fix it right now because this is how it's been working for so long.
Yeah, and for them though, but for their benefit though, it's working for their benefit, not for ours though.
But when I got up to go to airman leadership school and I got to staff sergeant, it was more of they were like, well, let's see how long you'll keep that. And so that's kind of like a reason why I ended up getting out after 8 years, because it was more like, hey, I'm at E5. We're not trying to get you any higher than E5 because we got you here to try to be a supervisor, but we're not looking at the leadership style. And at that time, I was still at Langston and I was active with Sigma. And so I was coming into the military trying to lead, but it was more of them trying to hold me down because they were like, well, you're a 20-year-old kid and what do you really know?
Yeah. It's so crazy. We all joined to look for greater opportunities, not recognizing the idea of our development is in the hands of someone else. They get to control the level in which you advance. Yep. And I think that's what we don't realize. I think about belief systems. Like when I was, one of the things my mom had was like, if you want to have respect, you got to earn respect. And when you get over there, it's like, okay, yeah, you can earn this. You can try to earn as much as you want. You know what I'm saying? But my rank, as long as it outranks what your rank is, literally, you mean nothing to me. Yeah. It's crazy.
But the thing is with blacks in the military, even now, it's more of they see us as a threat more than something that can help further the mission. Everybody goes in to want to be that role model, to show that example. But once you start picking up their rank, they feel like that we're going to be that threat. And that's what they try to counteract every time.
And that's kind of sad because as leaders, our job, no matter what, no matter where you lead, whether it's the military leadership, whether you're leading in your job now, our job as leaders is to always develop our people that are coming behind us. Because that's how it should be, right? Because I want you to take my job when I'm done, right? I need you because I'm not going to be here forever.
Somebody want to leave it in good hands.
But
I was like, because you got to think about what drives people to have power to begin with. You see certain drill sergeants, you like, oh yeah, I could tell you got punked in the third grade.
You're right.
You can tell. You're right.
And it comes down to like who is as a leader, who do you consider your people? Because who do you consider your people that you're uplifting, that you're pouring into, that you're growing, that you see as valuable and who warrant that support? Because we'd like to think, and I know a lot of people feel like, oh, well, if you just go in the military, you be cool because it's all even over there. It's just unfortunately not the case. We're hearing that a lot in
Yeah. For me as a leader, I wanted to develop all my folks. Period. Well, I don't care. I don't care what your background was, black, white, Hispanic. I didn't give a darn. But if you show that initiative that, hey, I want to be a leader, help me get to where I need to get to. I didn't care who you were. I was going to help because I had to deal with the BS, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't want my soldiers or anyone coming in behind them to have to deal with that same stuff that I dealt with.
Yeah,
And now that I was in a position where I could make a difference, I wanted to make sure that my impact was great.
absolutely.
Because what ends up happening a lot of times is even if you notice how the military has come along, is that I may not have experience. How do I put this? The people who came before me and fought for certain rights and certain things for us to get, they probably didn't get it,
Right,
but they fought hard enough for me to get it.
right.
So I wanted to make sure that whatever I did moving forward, that I may
Pay
not
for it.
benefit for it. Right, I may not benefit from it right now, but the people that come after me will be able to benefit from it.
That's what it should
And,
say.
and that's how I
You wanted to
wanted
leave it better. You wanted to leave it better than you found it. That's the way it should be.
Exactly. That's how it
Absolutely.
should be. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I commend that, bro.
me coming in older though, I recognize dysfunction and
Right off the bat.
disarray, like right away.
Yep.
Like matter of fact, and plus I was kind of rah going into it. Like, so I don't know exactly the timeline for when y'all brothers pledged, but me pledging KSI in a time where they'll put you through walls and I'm taking wood all the time and then I'm taking cane and like my pledging was hard. By the time I went to the Army, basic training was easy.
Really?
Basic training for me, one, I was in shape. One, I was 27, so I'm old enough and mature enough. I'm mentally strong, and I've already been through a situation where they're tearing you down to build you back up.
Exactly.
I've already seen this play out before. So me going in 27, I'm seeing when the drill sergeants don't know what they're doing, and at this time you have to understand too, I'm going in as a high classified contract negotiator with project management experience and a master's degree. So I'm seeing I'm seeing when drill sergeants are fucking up. I'm watching when the captain don't know what he doing.
Yep.
I'm seeing all this stuff while the 18, 19-year-olds miss their mommy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm looking at basic training through a different
lens.
scope.
Yeah.
And so it was very frustrating. Basic training was frustrating to me. And then when I got to my regular drilling station, having leaders that were less educated, having leaders that just were not leaders.
Clueless.
Clueless.
They were clueless.
That was frustrating. I'm doing their paperwork because they don't know how to do it. I'm doing things that I shouldn't be doing as an E4 because they don't know how to do it. They don't have the acumen for it. But I'm still getting paid like a specialist.
Right.
Yeah.
So that put me in the mind frame where, you know what? I don't even want to go to OPS school no more. I don't even want to get promoted. I just want to do my time, get my loans paid off, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So I didn't even want to get promoted no more, bro. I just wanted to do the base and get out.
Dejan, you had a similar experience where you went in after living a little bit and even having a college experience. Did you find kind of a similar experience of seeing things differently when you went to basic training?
Yeah, I completely agree with him. After going through the process, and then you end up going to the military, basic training was cake. So people yelling in your face and making you do this, making you do that, it was nothing. You just got to do it.
It was like
just
summer break.
Be precise. Yeah, be precise in everything you do, and they won't yell at you. Be confident in everything you do. You're fine. They're not going to really mess with you as much because there's going to be another guy next to you that hasn't gone through that. They're going to pick on him though. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely cake.
It was cake. It was a cakewalk. So when I hear brothers that went to basic training or the boot camp, when I was in high school or something, you know what I'm saying? It's just like we had a totally different experience, And so
I think the
I respect
toughest one we had was that gas chamber, bro.
Ooh.
You can be a
Yeah.
I don't care if you didn't call 3 bodies. You done beat up your mama's boyfriend you didn't like. You had teardrops.
Well, that
You
thing
know
would
what I'm
it
saying?
would tear you down. I don't care who you are, it's
Yeah.
gonna bring you down.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the toughest dudes crying after that gas chamber, bro.
Yeah.
Woo!
Spit nothing but facts. That was terrible.
Hey, like I said, hey, I did it. Listen, I did basic training twice, right? Because I went through basic training, but then when you go to drill sergeant school is basically basic training all over again.
Oh yeah.
Only this time you got rank, and you got somebody who has the same rank as you, screaming and hollering. That's a little bit more difficult. Let me tell you, and experience some racism in there too as well, man. To be honest with you, because you got these like you said, you can tell the ones who have that leadership experience, and then you can tell the ones that you just lead by fear. That's what you lead by fear.
Right.
And one of the things I never wanted to lead by fear. I don't want you to lead because my rank is such and such. I want you to follow what I tell you to do because one, you respect me, and you know that I'm looking out for your best interest, right? That was my way of leadership, especially after being dogged out all those years, right? It's like, okay, we got to do something different because that stuff that they did to me wasn't working, right? And again, people that come in the military now, this is from a drill sergeant's perspective. They're more educated, right? They have those critical thinking skills. I didn't go around screaming at soldiers. Come here, private. Let me holler at you for a minute. Come here.
Yeah.
And I get in their ear and I say, listen, now you don't do what the hell I tell you to do. Now I can't put my hands on you, but I'm gonna get some up that can fuck you up. Just like that. I didn't have to scream. I had to say nothing.
Yeah.
And then they look at me like, what are you talking about? I said, I'll tell you what. Yeah, MPs. Hey, listen, this is drill sergeant Dakota over here at the reception station. Yeah, I got a joke over here. I need you to come take care of. Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Boy, they be in 5 minutes. They there. Then I'm like, I can't put my hands on you, but guess what? These bugs.
But them
MPs
wasn't no joke, bro.
I don't mess.
MPs
You know what I'm
was
saying?
ready for the smoke all
Yeah, they
the
are.
time.
Yeah, they
Why
are.
y'all like this?
They
bro?
itching for it. They
You know
itching
what I'm saying?
for it.
They ready for it, man.
Listen, man, I got beat up so bad, bro. I woke up the next day, didn't recognize myself in the mirror. It was the worst feeling in the world, bro.
Yeah.
It is, man. It is.
God.
They get you. They get you too, man. Like when I beat up those two guys, man, they took me out of handcuffs, man. They put my face right on the hood of the car. Now, if you ever been to Fort Sill in July, everything that's outside is hot. Okay? And here you are putting my face on the hood of a car that's running, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, yo, you gonna pick me up, do something, put me on the ground. I don't care at this point. But this thing is hot. I was scared to move.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So,
what are some of the things that you guys feel like you've acquired from going into the military that you really value? Because I know I'm disciplined and I love the discipline. I love the different perspectives that I gain from being able to travel around the world and see different dynamics, especially when we talk about constructs. Because racism, it's a construct. I mean, at the end of the day, the way that we're taught to believe about just having an opinion of somebody before you even see them, it's a construct. But what are some of the things that you guys can say you gained in terms of your development?
Well, I could say honestly now because like now I'm a police officer in Atlanta. So the military kind of gave me the confidence to go out and do the things. I'm a people person. I talk to everybody. And it also gave me like the work ethic that I go out there and I bust my butt every day to try to make that difference. And even to like my appearance is like squared away all the time. And then even my captains and my sergeants are like, man, you shine your boots still? And I'm like, yeah.
Bro, I can shine some boots clean as hell, boy. Yeah.
But
I sure can.
But the thing is, the biggest thing now is like I deal with a lot of the homeless population in Atlanta. Some of them are veterans, and I kind of have that compassion for them because I know there aren't many programs that the VA will offer them to get them to be right, because most of them, they do things so they can just go to jail, so they can get that medical care, because the VA is only giving them 30 to 40% to continue.
Wow.
So when I'm out there, I think the military has also given me that compassion to be for that fellow man. So
that's dope, man.
I'll piggyback on Donald's. I'll piggyback on Donald's. I think going into the military, I always thought my biggest fear in the military was an arrogant white dude. I had different issues with arrogant white dudes, and matter of fact, even if I didn't have an issue, I feel like that was the chip on my shoulder. I said, when I go into the military, my issue is gonna be these arrogant ass white dudes, especially the ones with no education. That was gonna be my hurdle. But the military showed me poor white people up close, because a lot of them were coming into the military because a lot of
It's
us.
their escape route.
It was the same thing. They were coming more from rural areas.
Yeah.
They were coming in broke and needing a way out because they didn't want to work on the farm, or they didn't want to work in like this podunk ass factory that their grandfather even has worked in. So they were trying to escape too, and them getting screwed over by the military because their contract wasn't right, them getting screwed over and not getting bonuses, them getting trying to escape wherever they was coming from. I was seeing the same type of dilemmas that they were trying to escape from. So it gave me the humanity with white people, and I use that when going to these inclusion conversations that I have now as an educator.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's definitely it. Oh, go ahead, Damon.
No, please do, because you're speaking directly to what he's saying.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say that what it gave me a lot was, of course, the discipline that I didn't get growing up. Right, that's the biggest thing. But then also the ability to deal with chaotic situations. Right, I've been to combat. I've been to combat twice. Right, so being able to really discern and listen to what is really being said allows me, right, in my civilian job, to be able to really listen to folks, right? So now I listen to understand and not just to react or to respond.
Let's go.
Right? Yeah. You know, and that's some of the things that it taught, but it also taught me to be empathetic to folks, because when my soldiers came to me, once I'm the first sergeant, and now you come to me with a problem, with an issue, right? Yeah. Hey, first sergeant, my boots are dirty because this and this and this happened at home. Well, guess what? I didn't have people that were empathetic to my situation, but because I've been where you've been, let's talk about this and see how we can get you into a better place, right? Yeah. I use those type of, those things to kind of help soldiers out moving forward. And again, it taking those values and those things that I learned in the military and then bring it into the workplace that I'm in now, because I've worked both in the medical field, I'm in education now. It just allows me to be able to really make an impact on people that I come across with. Yeah. Just like Donald, hey, I was a shy person growing up, being in New York, even though I did a lot of stuff. A lot of the things that I did was really just to survive. Yeah. When growing up in New York, we ain't had the Bloods and Crips, right? We had your local gangs, right? And each street, it looked like had their own gang. So when I'm walking to school and I got to go through 10 different gang territories, I don't mind fighting you one-on-one. I'll fight you one-on-one. I'll probably fight you one-on-two. But when it's 5 against 1, I got to do something. I got to survive. How can I survive this? Yeah. Now, when I got 5 of me and there's 5 of you, I'm good, right? But a lot of the things, you just learn how to survive. Those survival skills I learned on the streets, I took those same survival skills into the military. They gave me even more survival skills, how to deal with, prejudiced leaders, how to deal with racist leaders, how to deal with situations that, you're not really comfortable with, right? How to advocate for other people, for other soldiers, right? Like Brother Courtney was saying, those kind of things, right? That's what it gave me. And now I'm able to take that, working at Metro Technology Center, where I work now, where we're on the east side. The demographics of our school is either Hispanics or Black, right? Yep. I can take what I've learned throughout my years and help those students out to achieve, right, a goal that they're trying to reach.
Absolutely.
And stuff. So anyway.
This kind of stuff we need. It's kind of crazy. It's like I went through my trash so I can show you how to clean yourself up fast.
No doubt. Hey, no doubt.
That's it, man.
I like that.
I would say the military and the experience in the Marine Corps, it gave me this sense of fearlessness. And it was good and bad, because in some situations there's this stoicism and there's I can hardly be budged even in some of the most
difficult
times. Yeah. And to the point of in counseling session once, we do biofeedback in a lot of different treatments. And in counseling, that's a way to see how your body's reacting to your emotions. And so they check your heart rate and your blood pressure. And in one of the most tense moments, they're checking my heart rate, and they're like, "It doesn't look like you're even phased. Like, why are you not?"
That's Courtney. That's Courtney.
It's
You
just
can
is
you
what
can
it
t-
is.
you can tell by how some of your sarcastic remarks you make, and I comment to them, and you kind of got this look on your face, and I'm like, bro, hold on, are you serious right now? Let me make sure I understand what's going on. Yeah, I was interested to know like what has changed, if the dynamics have changed for people that are in the military now.
Yeah.
What
No.
do you mean?
It's still, listen, they still deal with the same things that we deal with. It's either not as blatantly put out there anymore. Because let's think about this for a minute. January 6th. You know how many of them folks were former soldiers?
Yeah.
Current soldiers,
Yeah.
current police officers, or were police officers. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is still there.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep up with it because that's just me, right?
Yeah.
The military has been instilled in me for a long time. So I still keep up with a lot of things that's being done and said, even though we have leadership now in the higher places, right?
Yeah.
That are representative of us, you still got those lower level leaders that still think that they have that mentality of, yeah, I don't like you because of the color of your skin.
Yeah.
And they can't blatantly say that. Oh, but they can do things behind the back, like Courtney said, with your paperwork. Yeah, you ain't going to school today.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm still working on that. Oh, you still have to do this. You still have to do that.
Yeah.
So, but let's hear from the brother there, because like you said, he's still in right now. So.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So listen to everything that you guys said. Hey, be quiet, man. I can definitely agree with a lot of it, from the assertiveness, the confidence, the like all of that. And so I'm security forces, and with me being security forces, one big thing military has given me is that assertiveness, being able to talk to people of many ethnicities, backgrounds, all of that. Like I can just talk to whoever and actually communicate effectively with whoever. Um, yeah, that yes, that confidence. Whenever you do something, being confident in everything you do. If you mess up, hey, I'm take it, fix that issue for next time. But if you actually did something, it's like be proud of what you've done. Like be happy, be proud of what you've done. Stand strong in who you are. Because something I realized, and who was it? I believe Jay. You mentioned something about it earlier, from what I heard. But being the type of leader, a certain type of leader. Something I realized with the military, with those, yeah, I don't care. With a lot of the guys of the other complexion, they tend to be emotional leaders, or a lot of people tend to be emotional leaders. And for what I notice is us being black males, we can't be emotional leaders. As soon as you become an emotional leader and you get emotional about something, oh, you can't control yourself, or you're this, you have your attitudes or whatever, and we can't afford that. But they are allowed to.
Right.
But if you're not an emotional leader, you're like, you can be stern. Don't let stuff affect you. Oh, I'm not going to do this any different just because I don't like you or because you end up pissing me off. I'm just going to do this because this is by the book. This is how it needs to be. This is the standard. And I'm going to set that and I'm going to keep that. But yeah, definitely all that. Everything that Sean said, I understand all that completely.
How do you DJ, how do you see like systematic racism as you still being in the military? How do you see that today in like 2022, 22?
Yeah. So as I said, I'm security forces. So that's law enforcement. So I see a lot of different things that come about, not just the military subtle racism, but the law enforcement aspect of it too. When people are profiling other people and doing this and doing that, I've seen a lot of it, and I actually experienced a lot of it. Especially with the black females in the youth. They hit the black females hard with it, seeing how a lot of stuff, if they say something or they do something, they turn or move their head when they talk, they do anything. Oh, it's an attitude. It's a this. It's a that. Yep. And then at that point, the military in a whole, it's like, as soon as you hit a rank, then you kind of become a part of a clique, essentially. You're that leadership clique. So everything that you do, that's going to get around to that clique, and now everybody has their opinion of you. So now all the leadership in the unit don't like you, or they have their thoughts about you, and that can affect you getting jobs. I've been passed over for a job because or the guy didn't want me in a job because he just didn't like me as a person. He never met me, so it was like, okay, what's the issue? I've had troops, they didn't weren't they missed out on awards for odd reasons, or they didn't get put up for awards for odd reasons, but some other troops did. And it's like, that's crazy. They did 3 times as much as them. How? Their package was good, so it's not on their package. It's like, how? So I've seen a lot of stuff like that, and like I said, for the law enforcement aspect, I seen the profiling, where okay, this guy, they'll go check an ID or talk to 5 different people. Okay, that sounds pretty normal. But then they see a car full of black kids roll up, and they're just a little bit more, like, little less friendly, a little more aggressive, leaning to the vehicle a little bit more to try to get a scent. Making sure they ask everybody in the car a question to try to get information or a scent off of everybody in the vehicle. Like, I've seen that. I literally had to tell the person to go ahead and leave and pull the other guy to the side because I've seen stuff like that. Like, I've seen and experienced a lot of it.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy, man. God.
It's work on top of just trying to exist in the space that you want to thrive in.
Let me ask y'all brothers this real quick. So how many of y'all got kids? I got 5, right? 3 of them are grown. I got a son who's 18. I have influenced none of them to join the military.
Yeah.
None. I don't want any of my kids to be nowhere near it.
So, so I
wonder, how does everybody else think? If does everyone else think that way as well?
I mean, I got all girls, so, and I love entrepreneurship. I love having control of the idea of what you decide that you want to manifest in your life. I love people having the authority to exercise whatever that looks like for themselves when it comes in terms of empowerment. Now, if my daughters decide that's something they want to do, I'm going to try to educate them as much as possible and give them different perspectives and make sure that paperwork is A1.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Paperwork is everything.
That's good. Yeah.
And so if they're going in, I'm going to make sure they're equipped with everything they need and they're empowered to be able to achieve whatever goal that they're looking for and not just making it. And one thing I am proud of is they don't have to make it from fear driving them.
Yeah.
All of us have had fear drive us in one way or another, whether I'm trying to get out this financial situation, I'm trying to make sure my education is good, which is it's important. But when we talk about it, but it was fear driven because we were trying to survive. I don't never want my kids to have to do that, especially understanding the scope of what it means to well-being, right? It's a whole different thing to say, what kind of decision would I make from a place of wholeness versus what kind of decision would I be making just to get the hell up out of here, right? It's totally different, bro, when you can show up being the ideal version of who you are. So if my kids were to, A1. And that's why usually even Damon will tell you, I'm like, look, man, my daughter about to graduate, senior year this year. Y'all been to HBCUs. I got a college degree. I got my master's, working on this doctorate. But I'm like, what does the HBCU life look like? How can I equip them with Shemut and his different perspectives? That way we can make sure they have whatever they need and they can make an educated decision that really empowers them the right way and not just, off a whim.
Because have you ever had a conversation with a affluent white soldier? They only joined because their grandfather and their father was in the military too.
Right.
They have the network. They have the information. They don't join out of fear. They join because they know they can get their stuff paid off, education paid for. They know how to work the system, and they know they have someone that is
absolutely
writing the check for them. Like, yep, we're going to put him in these schools. We're going to get him trained. And before you know it, you have a 19-year-old young white dude who's an E5.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how that shit happen?
Right. Yeah. Right off the back.
And his parents are fluent. So it's not he didn't do it for money. He didn't do it out of fear. He did it because he knows that positioned correctly, the military can be the right platform for him to do other things. And so I say all that to say, Jay, I have a lot of mentees that I've kind of encouraged to go into the Air Force. But when they went to the Air Force, they had a great was a GT score. So because I made sure they studied first and got their stuff together. I made sure they knew that contract thoroughly. And I made sure they had the right situation.
Yeah.
And they didn't go in not knowing, and they didn't go in out of fear. And now they're like 21, 22, doing great in the Air Force. I have those situations. But like for a young black male who don't have nothing and is in these streets doing dumb shit, I tell him to go in the military, but sign a short
Right,
contract.
right. No
To get
doubt.
them away from it.
No doubt.
And not National Guard. I tell them to go active for like 2 years to get away from the bullshit. Because National Guard, all it is going to the basic training, AIT, and you right back to the hood.
You're right back to the street.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I mean, even for the ones that do that, National Guard, I'm like, bro, trade. You need a trade A1. We're going to do plumbing, electrician. You got to do something that's going to give you immediate value, bro. You got to be able to go and serve somebody in some type of capacity that's going to be able to increase your financial situation. That way you don't fall back into, a codependency. I tell people quick, the greatest form of power is codependency. If you have to be dependent on something else, bro, you become a slave to it one way or another.
Yep.
And
that's one of the things I told. Oh, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Right now, I think that's one of the best things that are happening, and we see the shift from, like Donnell said, moving into the military out of fear or out of the need to just prove something, right? Because you don't have a path. This is the same idea we need to take when we're taking our children into the military or into college or into trades or into other spaces of the world. Like, what's the path look like, and what are you walking away from with it? Because if you can go into the military and walk away with a license, a certification, a something that is allowing you to do something very specific that no one else can do unless they have what you have, then it's worth it. But no more walking into it just because this is the only way to put food on your table.
Man,
no doubt.
Ain't nothing wrong with that if that's what you absolutely need, but be smart about it. And I think that's why conversations like the ones we're having mean a lot, because we're not sitting here. And thank you guys. I want to say this as we kind of get to wrapping this up. Is thank you, because some people will, I'm sure, came into this conversation waiting on us to tell everybody, nah, this ain't for you. You don't want to do it. You ain't going in.
Right.
Even though we've all talked about the struggles we've had, even though we talked about some of the things that disappointed us in our experiences, the reality of it is there's value in all experiences if you're willing to learn it. And if you're willing to help those behind you learn it as well. So I want to definitely say that to you guys. Thank you for having that real conversation. I got a 6-year-old daughter. I've not thought about whether or not I would tell her to go into the military or not. But if she does, if she decides that's what she wants to do and needs to be, then we're going to make it happen to where she walks away from it with everything she can and without any regrets.
No doubt, brother. No doubt. And I've told my girls have told, they've, hey, Daddy, how come you don't want us, going in the military? And I told them, I say, because you don't have to. Your daddy had to.
Right.
I made it so that you didn't have to. You have choices. Your daddy didn't have choices.
I like it.
So that's what I tell them. And then from that, they did it. They were like, well, you're right, Daddy. I don't have to go. Instead, they all three of them. So for the 3 that I have, well, actually my son too, they've all I got 3 that been to college already and graduated. I got my son who's in there now doing cybersecurity. And I've kind of guided that to him, because I'm like, listen, bro, you like computers, you like hacking stuff. You might as well do it legally and get paid for it.
Right. Congratulations, bro.
Because he wasn't thinking about that stuff at first. He's like, yo, cybersecurity. I said, yes, sir.
Heck
and no, now he is enjoying it. Like, he is like, yo, I could see myself doing this for a long time. He's a loner. He just like, it's just him and his computer. I said, son, you're going to have an office somewhere to be you in your dark office and your computer hacking away. You can't have it no better than that, right?
Yeah.
That's how I use my influence from my experiences, though, to guide my kids towards what they really want to do. Now, if they came to me and say, hey, Dad, I want to join the military. Just like you guys, you best believe I'm going to be like, okay,
straight up.
This is what we need to do. First of all, let's go do your ASVAB and see what that score is. Because if you don't get a good ASVAB, you're going to have a shitty job here.
Yeah, man.
Right? You're going to be infantry, you're going to be artillery, which I was for 6 years. And I was like, this ain't it. Right? I said you're gonna be out in the field doing something stupid that you don't need to be doing. So,
Yeah.
but so I will definitely guide them through those processes and stuff
Yeah.
because I know what it takes. I know what they can do
Man.
if you're not careful, right? They'll make you sign because you don't read that stuff. Here, sign here, sign here, sign here.
Listen,
Who cares,
You
right?
just see the dollar signs.
The dollar sign. That's it.
Man, the dollar signs and they got a metric that they gotta fill.
Yeah,
You
they
know
do.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They meet
do.
them numbers.
They gotta meet
Hey,
them numbers, man.
I had
I'm
a
not.
fire ASVAB, and I ended up as a tow gunner. Listen, I've got a doctorate degree. I could have been on, and that's part of the conversation because we've got to make sure that we're guiding our children.
Yeah.
My family they didn't know any better. They didn't know.
But that's the thing. I had a really good ASVAB score, and they were trying to get me to go into intelligence in the Air Force. But I was 19 years old, and I was like, man, I just want to go to school, get my money, come home. And they made me a cook. I ended up getting an associate's degree in culinary arts. Had I not went back to Langston to get my bachelor's degree, I would have just went into culinary arts and still made the money.
Yeah. I was a sonar tech, bro. I was at the bottom of the ship. Boom, boom, in this cold green room. I was like, bro, how?
No sunlight.
I didn't even sign up for this, bro.
Vitamin D levels always down.
Bro, I learned some of the most dysfunctional, destructive weapons in the world. Every submarine, every nuke. I was like, I didn't even want to know this information, man. It was ridiculous.
Got it, man. All right, listen. Well, I'm gonna share with you guys. I want to, John, what you got, bro?
What you got, DJ?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, like I had a pretty decent ASVAB score too. I ended up going security forces because the other job I wouldn't let me have a relationship with my family. So just went security forces. Now I still do all the gun stuff I like doing, all that other stuff. But to answer your question before, just like Jay said, I'm in the military. I'm doing this so they don't have to. Like I'm busting my butt, doing all this other stuff, so they don't need to do that. I'm trying to give them as many opportunities to do whatever they want. Literally anything that they want, I want them to be able to try doing that. I'm in the process of starting up a business. Like I'm actually about to buy two vending machines, and I'm gonna stock them and stuff right now. But when they turn, I believe, what did I say? I wrote it down, but I believe it was 15. When they turn 15, that vending machine is now theirs. So that's your responsibility to stock it, this, that, and the other. The money that was being collected, that's the money that you're starting off with. Go ahead and stock it, collect the money, do all this. This is your first business. And I want them to be used to actually having a business. So when they get older, it's like, you experienced this before. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to work for somebody? Like, what do you really want to do? I want to actually teach them how to be adults. So, hey, hold on, Reese, hold on. I want to teach them how to actually be adults. So when it comes time to it, they're not doing as many knucklehead things and they're actually able to function, because that's something big in the military. They don't teach a lot of the A1 or E5 or not E5, E3 to E4. They don't teach them how to actually be NCOs. They just promote them when it's time for them to take their test and they pass, and then they expect them to be able to do stuff. But did you groom them for it?
Right.
No. So I don't want them to be in the military, but if that's their choice, hey, it's your choice. You just didn't have to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I'll tell you what, if I could do a backflip like Dr. Damon at age 40, I'd re-enlist again. You way too humble. Can y'all do a backflip? Bro, I seen dude do a
Bro,
backflip.
I can't even bend down good. Maybe talking about
Yo, I was strolling at homecoming, my back and knees still hurt. I wake up, everything snap, crackle, and pop.
I'm 53. How you think I would feel then, man?
Man.
Yo, I'm 30. That's the problem. I am 30.
I want to lean in on something that John said earlier, and I think it's really important that we say that. Our platform, Modern Manhood, this is our mission. We know we speak to the men in our community, but we don't live and work and build in a silo. And so I want to give a huge shout out to the women in our military.
Absolutely.
No doubt. No doubt.
Like they're fighting so many fights on top of the ones we talked about tonight. And Dijon talked about it, just the experience of showing up as a woman in the military, and then on top of that, a Black woman calls for so much more from them to succeed and to stay sane. And so for all the women out there and those women in our lives that we've served with and those who we love, who are a part of our families and our communities, this conversation is Black men, but I know everyone on here means it when we say we appreciate you, we honor you, and we support you.
Absolutely.
And service
No doubt.
everyone, in this race. So I want to
absolutely
take a moment to say that, and know that we echo that. So I'm going to share with you guys some advice. So I asked my grandfather what advice he would give to those who are thinking about going into the military. I think this is definitely the time to talk about it. And we're going to share, when we come back from hearing that, I want you guys to tell us as we sign off what your advice would be the same.
If you had some advice for young guys right now, especially, young guys who look like us, who are thinking about the experience, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, if you got some young guy, he's that's the first thing he want to do is find him a chick. I wouldn't advise it because I've seen guys that they had to almost restrain them. They didn't want to leave. I mean, they're over here in Yokohama or somewhere and didn't want to come back to the ship. They had to drag them back on the ship because they didn't want to leave their girlfriend.
Yeah.
And their girlfriend may not have been eligible to be his wife or something. You know what I'm talking about on that. You can't. But we were really, when we were 22 and 23 years old, and had been in the Navy already for 2 or 3 years or something.
Yeah.
So you can see that a 23-year-old is still a kid in a way, and especially when it comes to marriage and things like that.
Man, he is not lying, bro. It's something about being in the military that makes you feel like you got to get married and you got to build a family. I seen so many baddies when I got to the military, especially in Yokohama. It's funny how he talks about that because we was in Yokosuka and Okinawa, bro. And there's so many men that had got with so many women during that time, and it did cause it was distraction in a certain way. A lot of distractions, a lot of turmoil. Love is at its all-time high. Your vitality is A1. Your testosterone is optimal. You know what I'm saying? Bro, it's difficult, bro, not to get wrapped up when it comes to women that they can think about it. Like we young, we think we know everything, we strong, and you traveling.
I mean, and you got your hero badge on, you got your uniform, man.
Yeah, the uniform is just crispy. Whenever we was hitting different ports too, we had our own, like, each club had like almost like a ship where that club would be, or that ship would be a part of that club. So it was like, man, if you was moving up and doing things on the ship, you had a certain type of feng shui where you can move in different areas. Like you was important in certain ways. So yeah, that's good advice. That's great advice. What about y'all?
I'd have to say, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Donald. Go ahead.
So I would think one of the things I would honestly say, if somebody would go in at a younger age, I would tell them to educate themselves prior to signing that contract. Make sure you read, because if you don't read that fine print, you're going to get in and you're going to get something totally different from what you're signing up for. So I would just say educate yourself. And then before you even go in, you're asking those questions, because a lot of us being men, we're not going to ask that question. We're just like, where we sign at so we can go. So just educate yourself.
Yeah,
that's good.
I have to say the same thing. Educate yourself. Make sure that if they promise you something, that is in writing, because a lot of times they'll say, "Yeah, we could do that," but if it's not in your contract, it's not going to be there later either. And there's nothing you could do about it. Because once you sign that contract, you belong to the government at that point. And it ain't one of those deals like I tell my son all the time. It's not like you can wake up one morning and say, you know what, I ain't going to work today. Right? you going to work. Either they're going to drag you out of there or the MPs or somebody coming to get you, bro. So read that kind of stuff. Read your contracts. Educate yourself on each one of the different services so that way you know exactly what you get into. And find just like when we were looking, for a fraternal organization, right? Find the one that best fits what you're trying to do for yourself. And then go from there. But definitely read that contract because unlike anything else, it is definitely difficult to fight once you sign that dotted line. You're pretty much locked in. And hey, if you said you wanted to go to Japan and they say, yeah, you can go. And then all of a sudden you somewhere in South Kakalaka, Paris Island somewhere. It is what it is. That's where you're going. You can cry, you can scream, you can call whoever, but that's where you're going.
Tinker Air Force Base. I had some of my friends was mad. How I end up in Oklahoma? Bro, listen, you here now, baby. We finna
Hey,
that's
how I felt.
You
Coming from New York, 17 years old. Lawton, where's first of all, where's Oklahoma? That was my first thought. Like, where y'all sending me to? And I was like, I looked back then we ain't had phones and stuff. So it was like, let me look on the map real quick. And I'm like, it was one of them old road atlases and stuff. I'm looking, I said, New York City. I said, oh hell, I'm going to Indians and Cowboys.
Bro, they was like,
that's the first thing came to my mind, man. Like, seriously, I'm like, 1987. And then they brought us here in the middle of the night. I didn't see anything. I'm like, where the buildings, where the lights at? New York is lit up, right? You if you've been to New York, it's lit up 24/7, right? And I'm like, where in the world am I?
Hey, if Fort Seal is really dark in the dark. Like it's like extra black.
Extra black. That's all I got as far as that,
though. Especially Donald and Jay, y'all really talked about it. DJ talking about the knowledge part. Y'all already touched on that, so I'll maybe talk about something else. Especially what I learned in corporate America. Once you get an attitude, or once you, like DJ said, leading by emotion and by too much passion, you're deemed the mad black man, and you're not team oriented. You're not a team player. All this other BS that come along with it. You have to understand that the Army, the military, works with the same Karens that corporate America will work with. So if you have an issue with a peer, you better put that shit on paper, because all they're gonna see is that Sergeant McClain went and punched the shit out of somebody else. They're not gonna see what led up to it. Yep. That's all they're gonna see is the black man beat up on the other white guy. That's all they're gonna see. So you have to have that paper trail. And speaking about paper trail, man, we have to teach ourselves and others to document the issues that you have, the ailments on your body.
Right.
So,
yes.
A testimony I have is I went for my percentage, and right out the gate, I got 75 out the gate. And I did that because I was 27 and I had my documentation. But especially, speaking to y'all situation, nobody might have taught Jay that, hey, keep everything. Right. Anytime you go to the doc in the military, keep that paperwork. Anytime they give you some ibuprofen, keep that. I kept all mine, but I was 27. I had contract experience. You know what I'm saying? So I had the mindset to keep all of my paperwork anytime I went to go see a military doctor. And then so when I got out, I had this big ass, because my admin sergeant, he was trash. He actually, when I went to get out, they didn't have none of my files.
Man.
And I said, that's okay. And I pulled out this big ass thing and I said, make a copy. And so I was able to get my percentage like right off the bat.
That's awesome.
So can I can I do a quick rebuttal on what you just said, brother? Because that's real good. And that is true. But when I came in, the thought process was always you don't go to sick call. If you go to sick call, you owe me after work. Right. That was and guess what? And if you was of color, I'm definitely gonna get you now.
Yeah.
You understand? So and then when I started getting ranked, right? Once I started becoming E5, E6, E7, E8, they discourage you from going on sick call. That could, for us, that's a career ender, right? Oh, you just sick call too much. You know, I mean, I've worked where I was sick as a dog. I've worked where I had the flu. It didn't bother me though, right? I'm like, hey, it is what it is. I'm working, right?
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you. What you just said is exactly right. Make sure they understand that they need to, document every ailment every time you go, even if you just go in for sneezing.
Yeah.
Make sure that gets documented because if you don't, you end up having to fight your butt off just to get a simple 10%. You know what I'm saying? So that is the best advice. Well, that's one of the best advice you can give is anytime you go to sick call, document, and have your own records on hand at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
man, I think I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna flip it and say two things. First of all, research all three branches. My behind signed up on the first thing in the Navy and get there, and I could barely even swim. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to get out by any means necessary, regardless of what I was stepping into. Terrible advice. But I would say, man, recognize your behaviors, your triggers, and your urges so that you can have a sense of self-awareness and not have everyone else dictate the actions that you take place that can hinder your progress. Because I was a hothead. I grew up fighting. You know what I'm saying? When we was at, it was like if you lost a fight, my mom was like, you got to go catch a fair one. You know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of people that had the same mentality. So we was fighting in a lot of situations. And when I finally realized, you know what? I don't even have to fight this. I really can control myself. It was me having to keep everybody else in order that was a part of my command so that all of us didn't get in trouble. And I felt like if I had a more control over myself, even coming back home, it was a lot of violence that was going on afterwards. But had I an understanding of how to have more conscious awareness of my own actions, my emotions and behaviors, I probably wouldn't experience as much turmoil when I was in the military.
Yeah.
Good advice.
John, what advice do you have for those coming up who are thinking about jumping into those shoes?
Is he muted?
I think it happened again. Man, I feel like he was about to give us something good too, bro. I'm looking at it, bro.
I know, I was waiting, all right, because he was about to flow with it.
Hey, you got like perfect teeth. It was like them bars was about to come out, bro. Come on, technology.
Oh,
I feel like this was an amazing interview, bro. Okay, you got to go out and come back in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to hear what he got to say. It sounds like it's gonna be good.
Right.
He was about to come with one of them TD Jakes one-line quotes. He was gonna kill y'all. I'll be clowning, man. I'll be clowning.
Nothing wrong with that,
trying to have fun. It would have been really dope to have a female and get her perspective on it. I remember there was a lady I was dating that was in the military, and whenever they found out she was pregnant, she got put on so much pressure, bro, that she ended up having a miscarriage.
Oh.
It's sad, some of the things that women deal with. Yeah. All right, we good, DJ. Let's go.
All right, we good. All right. So before I give the advice, one thing I actually wanted to say is something that it's hard to read your names. Jay and who's next to Jay?
Mac. Courtney.
Mac. All right. Yeah. Something that the thing that both of them said. So you saying make sure you document everything. Yes, I did not hear. I wasn't told this until later on in my career when I'm 6 years in, and my first black mentor actually pulled me aside and started talking to me about it. Document everything because they don't tell us about doing it. And all the benefits and all that to talking to the VA or with the VA, they don't tell us about it. They get told, but they don't tell us about it. So if something happens, like you have PTSD, you have some serious stuff that's affecting you, you should be compensated for that. Like you should definitely be compensated for that. Talk to like actually talk to medical. Something that Jay said is he used to get talked to for doing so. In my career field, yes. For if you go to mental health, it's looked at as a as taboo, because what happens is they're going to take your weapon. For security forces, if you don't have a weapon, you kind of are useless. You don't have a gun. You can't be posted on the gate. You can't guard anything. A cop without a gun, you kind of can't really do much.
Right.
So, yeah, take care of your mental health. Actually, if something's off, definitely go to mental health and handle that. Because I've had troops that I literally had to, after having a conversation with them, I had to take them to the hospital and sit with them for hours, just so they can get picked up and taken to another facility to actually be held and monitored. I also had troops who've attempted suicide before. I've had troops who've done a lot of that, and I wouldn't want that on my heart if I could have done something.
Right.
But simple thing is, they don't talk to anybody. They don't tell people what's going on with them. So with that, it's kind of weird that my advice is. So my personal advice for the people in the military now is shut up. Like, that's my personal advice. People talk about their business so much to everybody and discuss their next move and discuss what they're trying to do, what they want, what they're doing now. And you don't realize, but you just talked to a snake right there. That person's about to bite you in the back, or they have something that they can use against you. Everybody doesn't need to know your business, know your next move. You can move freely and you're fine. Everybody at work is not your friend. This is still a job. Like, at the end of the day, the military is still a business. So if you're bad for business, you can get X'd off. If they tell and he does this on his off time, he parties or he does that, yeah. Now you just got you can get missed over. Hey. You can get pushed out, cast aside because they don't want the guy who does this on their off time or who does that. It might not be immoral or illegal, but they just don't want that around. And it's all because you couldn't be quiet. Keep people out your business.
Good advice. Good advice.
I think all of that together is really what my advice is that you've got to know who your tribe is, right? And this is especially in the military. You've got to know who your tribe is. And yes, you're serving together. There's this camaraderie and this brotherhood and sisterhood that is about surviving and thriving in war. But at the same time, if your life is not built on your military service, right, you've got to look at your future. And that means having a solid tribe of people around you so that, yes, when you are feeling things that you need to explore, you know who to go talk to and when that's appropriate. When you're having these thoughts of, okay, what does my life look like after this? Because this is going to end for me. You've got people, mentors, and people with experience in your corner who can help you put those steps in order so that you can move up as you're moving out. So for me, the advice is have people and have your tribe organized. Because I know that I don't regret joining the military. I learned a lot and I enjoyed it, but I know that I could have gotten so much more out of the experience had I had the right people, in my corner.
Facts.
To help me move in that space. And that means people in the military and who are not in the military. Because sometimes you need to be able to see that from the outside looking in when you're so entrenched in that culture. So for anybody who's thinking about it, find some people to talk to who have different perspectives.
Yeah, man.
In, outside, before, after, all of that, to make sure that you can move with your team, with your tribe in the best direction for yourself, for your family, and your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great advice. Great.
Yeah. That's why I try not to go around talking bad on the military. Because
Right.
depending on your situation, depending on where you get stationed, depending on your job, your situation can be totally different from mine. So that's why I don't try to go around bad mouthing the Army. Because I've seen the Army do some great things for people who probably from Dale City who wouldn't have been doing shit with their life.
Absolutely.
It might be in jail if they wouldn't have went to the Army. And now they're like E7s. So Nah.
Listen, I appreciate you, fellas. This has been a dope conversation, like Donnell said, and I hope that I hope it speaks to everyone who's listening to this. We can walk away, with more insight, a couple of laughs, and knowing that we're out here, we have our experiences. Again, shout out to everybody who served, and especially our women who have served in the military. Donnell, we might have to go in here and put that conversation together.
And man, I'm with it. If we can find four amazing women that, you know what I'm saying? I'm always down for a great dialogue like that. It'd be good to get that insight, man. For real.
Absolutely. So,
hey, man, I just want to say thank you guys for creating space for us to do this too, man. We wouldn't have been able to make this without you all. Seriously, thank you for your service and for taking our time to do this, man, because we know that your time is valuable as well.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate it, man. We appreciate y'all, man, for inviting us, man. Definitely.
Yeah, I do want to say thank you. I appreciate you for inviting me because when you told me about it, I had no clue. I was like, what? You trying to do a podcast? You got questions? Okay. This is my first time really doing something like this. But yeah, thank you.
You did great, bro. The kids too, man. I like the ad-libs the kids were putting in.
Listen, so you guys tap in with us. Again, I'm Dr. Damon. This is Donnell Cole, one of the co-founders of Modern Men Foundation. Is a 501c3 nonprofit with the mission to empower men to grow and build better communities. So check out our website at manhoodmasterclass.com. Jump into our programs we got coming up. We got some amazing programs in the community and online, like our podcast, like our meetups, like our masterclass. We've got a sex education program that we are gearing towards fathers so we can have the conversation, because we're going to have that talk. And I'm going to tell you, it's sooner than you might think. I got a 6-year-old. We're starting to talk about stuff already. So listen, what we want to do, though, is we're going to have a cohort of men only. You don't necessarily have to be a father, but if you are part of the community, to make sure that we're helping reduce teen pregnancy and reducing, the illnesses and STIs and STDs that are out there, then let's have the conversation. Let's talk about the research. Let's talk about the knowledge. Let's talk about the anatomy and physiology. Let's talk about the different things in our community that are happening in culture and in religion, and how that relates to how we are being responsible for leading and guiding our communities when it comes to sexual health. It's not just about pointing to the condoms. That ain't working for us, man. So we're having those conversations. We start in February 21st. It's going to be on Zoom, so we'll be able to meet from wherever you are. It's free. We're giving away prizes, and we're supporting the community in ways that are important. So show up for that. Reach out to us. We're talking about the birds, bees, and everything in between. It's important. We're going to do that.
Yeah, man.
We tell you, we got some amazing things coming into the Man Cave. You guys join our Man Cave group and welcome other brothers into the fold, because when we say we're building elders, this is how we do it. So,
absolutely.
Again, we appreciate you, fellas, and everyone who's listening. Go back and listen to it again. It's probably something you missed. We got to have you, though. Be well.
Peace.
Thank you.
Have a good one.